Happy Monday, everybody. How do we do? Welcome in. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see me in these streets? Um, Hope everybody had a great weekend. Uh, and some rest. I didn't, but so goes life. Um, life's. If you're on YouTube, if you could hit the like button, if you could share the stream, that would be great too. Word of mouth is how we're gonna get this done, ladies and gentlemen. Because I'm not outrageous enough. I don't. I don't. I don't say and do enough outrageous stuff. To really be pushed by algorithms. So how we're really gonna build this movement is word of mouth. So share to your friend. Uh, share to your coworker you want to annoy. I don't even care. Just share to somebody. Ah, but today uh is gonna be a very information heavy rant because sometimes you gotta drive things home to people so they can get it and truly understand their government. Because the one thing that has failed us in this nation is the 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 way civics has just basically been removed from the classroom. I don't know why the camera keeps shaking, but we're just going to keep going for now. I think it's this. Hold on. Is it this? It might be that. But anyway, civics. So with the moment you take that out and people don't really understand their government, how the government works, this is how we get what we have now, right? You get a bunch of people on social media. They believe everything that's said with no information, no facts. They don't understand how their constitution works. They don't even know how many articles in the constitution, how many amendments we have, not where to find a right or a need or anything. They don't care about anything. What they care about is Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, dog meat. I don't care. The constitution is the constitution, right? And so but you have people running around here screaming phrases that they have no idea what they're talking about, and that's really what grinds my gears in this whole situation. So we're going to be very information heavy today, so I'm going to give you a heads up. I'll do my best to throw my little zingers in there every now and then, but really what I want to do, the objective of today, is to inform and to be factually and historically accurate. That's it. That's the goal. That's my goal for today. Um, Now I know we like the lives. I don't do a lot of them, but messy stuff. I understand. Messy is fun. Messy's great. I literally shared with y'all. If you watched the battle last night, I shared one of my guilty pleasures with y'all. I ain't gonna repeat it here. If you saw it, you saw it, but I'm not repeating it here. But yeah, so let's get into the matters of the facts of the things and the situation. So you've been hearing this phrase, World War III. World War III is a coming. We're on the cusp of World War. Shut up. Shut up. Ah, just be quiet. What we also don't do a lot of is shut up. Like sometimes I have to shut up and go read, right? Shut up and go watch a documentary on something. Shut up and get information before you start barking like a basset hound with no agenda, right? And I get it. A lot of folks are on social media not because they give a damn about informing folks. They're on here just to be salacious, to make money. They don't care how informed or misinformed you are. They don't care if they're right or wrong. They don't care. They don't care. But I actually care to a degree, not to a big degree, but to a degree, I do care about people being informed because it's irritating trying to have a debate with your emotional state. It is. It's really, really annoying trying to have a debate with your heart and your historical hurts and your emotionals. I don't care. I don't care. I really, really don't. I don't care. No part of me cares. So what I care about is information, right? Information. And then there are times and places for emotions, right? There are times and places for that, right? But when we're talking about acts of war, constitution, operation, missions, president, all that, when we're talking about that stuff, you have to be information first, right? So, anyway, enough rambling about the information, and let's just get to the information because all of a sudden, everybody is a constitutional attorney. Everybody knows the Constitution, they understand it, and they don't know a daggone thing, right? So, everybody's a war historian, everybody's an expert on executive authority. You see it, the headlines Operation Epic Fury. President Trump, Iran. Yeah. And as soon as you see those headlines, you know what comes. People go on X, blood. Trump has blood on his hands. Trump, rah, 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 rah. Even with the school, sidebar, with the school that got um, hit in Iran, they often leave out it wasn't us. It wasn't Israel or the US that hit that school, but nobody wants to have that conversation. We just want to make it Trump, Trump, oh my God, Trump, blah, blah. But instantly, what happens on social media? Constitutional crisis. It's unconstitutional. This is a dictatorship. All right, can we pipe down for a moment? Can we slow down for a moment? Just to slow down, slow down. Because words mean things. I know in this information age, we don't really care about words. We just use the word we feel is the most salacious and inflammatory, right? For lack of a better word, in the moment, we use the most crazy word that we can find. We don't give a damn if it actually is applicable to the moment. We just want to incite people, right? But words actually mean things. And when you throw words around recklessly, you don't sound informed. You sound very emotional and unhinged, right? This right here is not about panic. This is not about theatrics. This is not a, this is the, what this actually is about is understanding the difference between war and a military operation, right? And understanding what the Constitution actually says, right? That's what I'm here for today. I don't give a damn about your feelings about Trump or Biden or Obama or I don't care. I'm just here to talk about this difference. That's it. So, how is war actually declared? Because, people, how we at war? hmm Okay, so in order to find that out, you would have to go to Article 1, Section 8 of our here Constitution of these here United States, right? Congress has the power to declare war. That means there has to be a formal vote. A resolution has to be right. Okay, cool. And then there's a joint resolution, and then a legal recognition that the United States of America is entering the state of war against another nation. Right now, just to be clear, this actual action has only happened 11 times in our nation's history, right? And the last time it happened, most of us weren't even here. That was 1942. So 1942, that was World War II. And since then, I know we've had other wars, right? We had Korea, we had Vietnam, we had Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. But the thing with all of those subsequent wars is that none of them had formal declarations. Now, why did they not have formal declarations? Because modern warfare has changed. Okay. Instead of declarations, Congress passed the authorization for use of military force. Okay. And you're going to hear me emphasize that several times in this conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're listening, right? The AUMF authorizes the president to use military force against specific threats without declaring war. So say it with me. That is not a dictatorship. That is not a dictatorship. That's modern legislative practice. Okay. You don't have to like it. And if you don't like the law, change the law. Right. Make it your mission to change the law, not just bark and scream on social media. But no, we don't want to have that conversation. So let's talk about the executive branch, aka the president, who y'all think is Jesus Almighty and has all of this he's this boundless power. If you go to Article 2 of our here Constitution, the president is the commander in chief. That means the president directs military operations. The president can deploy troops. The president can respond to imminent threats. The president can conduct limited military actions. Now, the founders separated the power to declare war from the power to command the military. Now, why did they do that? These brilliant, brilliant men, because they didn't want what? A king. So when y'all know King's protest in a couple of weeks, that's why we have that separation, right? That's why you have a separation between the power to declare war and the power to command the military. Oh, yes, 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 yes. I know, I know, I know. But they also didn't want Congress micromanaging battlefield decisions, right? Because who wants that, right? 400 and some odd people and 100 senators and then conflicting with the executive. We don't need all of that, right? So now this is where a lot of folks get confused, right? Presidents have constitutional authority to conduct limited military operations without a declaration of war, especially for deterrence, for the defense of U.S. personnel, and for national security interests, right? That's all under the existing AUMF. I don't know why I cannot say that today. That has been the precedent for decades. So, this notion that President Trump just woke up and decided to make his own rules is absurd. It's ridiculous. So, can we? I know we can't stop because Trump derangement syndrome is actually real. Anyway, so after Vietnam, Congress passed the War Powers Resolution of 1973. Now, what does that say? It says if the president deploys armed forces into hostilities, he must notify Congress within 48 hours. Forces must be withdrawn within 60 days unless Congress authorizes continued action. Ooh, notice what it does not say. It does not prohibit short term military operations, a la where we are right now. Mhm. It simply regulates them, right? Where we are today in Iran, right, right. So this whole notion that Trump has gone off the rails and he's just doing whatever he wants to do, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Presidents from both parties have operated under this exact framework. So please stop it. Mhm. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. So the War Powers Resolution of 1973 literally says the president must notify Congress within 48 hours, right? And then he has 60 days, right? Unless Congress authorizes action, right? Now here's the funny part. Here's the funny part that presidents have gotten around since then, right? The key phrase here is unless Congress authorizes the action. It does not require a formal declaration of war. It requires authorization. Ladies and gentlemen, that's called a loophole. Or, depending on your perspective, the modern workaround. You found a way to get around the rule, right? This is not specific to Trump. Bush did it, Obama did it, Clinton did it. Okay. Are we okay, cool. So let's actually unpack some history here. How did Korea, Vietnam, not Iran, Afghanistan go beyond 60 days? Now, exactly how did that happen? Because Congress authorized them, just not through formal war declarations. So let's walk through a couple of these, shall we? So we had the Korean War in 1950. President Truman never asked for a declaration of war. Are we clear? Okay. Instead, he framed it as a police action under United Nations authority. Congress sent the money because Congress holds the purse. Congress funded it. Congress never cut it off, right? So funding equals consent. Right? In practical terms, if you are sending the checks, we can still work. Okay, cool. Let's go to the Vietnam War. There was no formal declaration of war, right? Instead, we had the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. That was 1964. President Johnson, it authorized President Johnson to use all necessary measures. hmm So that resolution sort of acted like the AUMF, right? So it was sort of a. I'm sorry. It was sort of preemptive, right? So it was sort of okay. Right? Are we tracking? I just want to make sure we're tracking here, right? And TikTok, don't you try anything. If I'm on TikTok, I don't know because the last time we didn't go. But if we are on TikTok, don't play with me today with no misinformation BS. All right. Mhm. Because then when I ask for what the misinformation is, you can't tell me. But anyway, so it's war without the word war. Now I'm not saying that, and then let me also be clear. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying this is how they were able to do it, right? Constitutionally, this is how they were able to do it, right? Within the parameters of their limitations, this is how they worked around it, right? Then you had Iraq, which is probably more in our purview and more of our time lifetime. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. That's probably more in our lifetime. So Congress passed the authorization for use of military force against Iraq resolution in year of our Lord 2002. That satisfied the war powers requirement. So no formal declaration of war, but explicit what? Authorization. Oh, okay. And then we have Afghanistan, which was 2001. This is after 9/11, and then Congress passed the 2001 AUMF, right? So we got the 2001 authorization for use of military forces act, right? Okay, cool. We there. It authorized forces against those responsible for the attacks, right? So the AUMF was interpreted broadly, and it lasted 20 years. So still, no formal declaration of war. Okay, so what's really going on here? Okay, what about that? The 60-day clock only forces withdrawal if Congress refuses to authorize and Congress refuses to fund the operation, obviously, right? If Congress passes an AUMF or continues funding, doesn't force withdrawal, then operations continue legally under statutory authority. Are we clear, ladies and gentlemen? Right? So why has there been no formal declaration since World War II? Because declarations of war trigger broader legal consequences internationally. They trigger certain treaty obligations, mobilize the nation in a way modern leaders often want to avoid. Politically, it locks Congress into ownership of of the actual conflict. Right? Modern wars are politically inconvenient, right? Especially today, right? Like you can't do what you did in Vietnam and all the other, right? You can't do it, right? So instead, we use one second. There we go. All right. Instead, we use the authorization for use of military force, security resolutions, limited operational authorizations, and continued appropriations. It allows flexibility and it allows political deniability, sort of. So, the big truth, put on your big draws. We haven't stopped fighting wars, we've stopped calling them wars. So, there's a difference. Again, the workaround, right? We worked around it, right? The Constitution hasn't disappeared. It has been interpreted through modern legislative practice, right? Congress doesn't want full responsibility. Presidents don't want full constraint. So we live in this shared gray zone. Okay? Boom. So now there are several scholars out here who say that this may be unconstitutional. And they have some solid arguments. There are three main arguments. One, it may violate the separation of powers. The Constitution divides war authority, right? Congress declares war, president is commander in chief. Some constitutional scholars argue the War Powers Resolution tries to micromanage the commander in chief by imposing a rigid 60-day withdrawal clock. Now, we just went over Presidents since World War II have found ways to get around it. So so yes, yes and no, right. And then there's the legislative veto. The original version of the war powers resolution included mechanisms allowing Congress to end military action through a concurrent resolution, meaning without the president's signature. No, no, no. That's a legislative veto, and that's a no-no, right? So in 1983, the Supreme Court ruled legislative vetoes unconstitutional because they bypassed the normal lawmaking process, not lawmaking process, right? So you need both chambers, the and the presidential signature, right? Anyway, so that cast serious doubt on parts of the war resolution. While Congress amended some procedures, the constitutional tensions still remain to this day. So, and then number three, it assumes Congress can force withdrawal without passing a new law. Now, this resolution says troops must withdraw after 60 days unless Congress authorizes continued involvement. But the counterargument is under Article 2. If the president has inherent authority to defend national interests, Congress cannot limit the authority except by passing a law that survives veto or cutting off the money. Okay, well, we just won't fund it. So critics argue the only constitutional way for Congress to stop military action is through its power of the purse. Got it? Cool. Not through a statutory clock. But again, we have seen how presidents, I literally articulated to you. I don't know if you weren't listening. Maybe you tuned out. Maybe the chicken you're eating right now, you're chewing really loud and you didn't hear. But I just went over several examples of how presidents went around it. Right. Okay, cool. And found a loophole, right? So if you don't like the law, it's you the people, you the people, you the people go to your local representatives and tell them you don't like the law. hmm They have the power to change it or at least initiate the process, right? So anyway, and so in this whole thing, people are like, well, why haven't courts settled this? Well, here's the twist: the Supreme Court has largely avoided ruling directly on the war powers resolution because war powers disputes are usually considered political questions, meaning they're better resolved between Congress and the president and not the judiciary. Are we clear? Cool. So we're just going to end up in this gray zone. We're just going to live in this constitutional gray area. So, but presidents of both parties question the constitutionality of the war powers resolution. Um, File required reports consisted with, but not necessarily pursuant to the resolution, and and continue operating under executive interpretations. We went over all of that, right? So that's the real constitutional tension really comes in here, and this is the honest reality of the situation. The Constitution was written before drones and cyber warfare and global terror networks and rapid response strike abilities, right? So before all of this technology that we take for granted today, this beautiful document was written long before all of that. So they had no way of foreseeing any of this. They didn't have televisions. So modern warfare happened in hours, not months, right? So you didn't have this abundance of time that you could take for granted to prepare. Like, no, if a president had to wait weeks to day for congressional debate before responding to every threat, our national security would literally collapse, right? But if a president can wage long-term war unilaterally, Congress becomes irrelevant. So that's the push pull we're dealing with right here. Push pull, push pull, push pull, right? And so information, ladies and gentlemen. I know information is not fun. Information is not fun. I mean, do you think it was fun putting all this together? Like, it's information. Of course, you want to read about who slapped who and who did what and who slept with who and who got pregnant by who. Yeah, all of that's fun. But, sometimes you got to shut up and get some information so you're informed as you go out into this world and try to argue politics, right? Now, let's talk about what everybody's screaming about, the actual operation at hand that is going on right now in year of our Lord 2026. And that is Operation Epic Theory, right? It is a targeted military operation, not a congressional declaration of war. Got that? Cool. Not national mobilization, not sustained invasion, right? It is a limited strategic military action designed to deter Iranian aggression, protect U.S. interests, and neutralize specific threats. This is not the legal equivalent to declaring war on Iran, right? You may disagree. Listen. You may disagree with the strategy. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And I have people who disagree with the strategy, but the difference between them and say other folks who are just Trump lied to you, Trump didn't. The difference between them and y'all is that they're actually informed and can articulate why they disagree. Y'all are just complaining about some campaign promise that nobody heard but you. And as I've said a million times, peace through strength does not mean standing by idle, waiting to get your ass whooped. Peace through strength, sometimes you have to buck up a little bit, right? And let them know, okay, cool. All right, we told you, right? So you may not agree with the strategy, right? You may not, you may even question the escalation risk. There's your words, AJ. And and all of that is fair. It's fair, but legally speaking, this fits squarely within modern executive authority and historical precedent, right? Calling it war does not, in fact, make it war, right? And, let's go to the past because there's a clip literally circulated of Nancy Pelosi saying that President Obama did not need authority for Operation Inherent Resolve in Syria, in Iraq, right? And she was right. But what I'm talking about and what I've been emphasizing this whole time is consistency, right? Not playing political theater, but consistency, right? So in 2014, President Obama initiated Operation Inherent Resolve against ISIS in Syria and Iraq. Now, why did he do that? Because ISIS was expanding rapidly, because American interests were threatened, because regional stability was collapsing. Did he receive a new declaration of war from Congress? No. Again, like we talked about the past presidents, he got around it, right? So he relied on the 2001 and 2002 AUMFs, as we have been discussing for the last 10 minutes. Okay. So the authorization of use of military force. Okay, cool. He relied on those resolutions. He conducted airstrikes. He deployed forces. He expanded operations. Congress did not declare war on Syria. Congress did not formally declare war on ISIS. Yet the operation continued for years. Was that automatically unconstitutional? No, because presidents have long exercised military authority under existing authorizations and national defense justifications. Are we clear? Boom. If you defend that, you need to be consistent, because there is no difference between what President Trump is doing versus what President Obama did, right? If you can criticize that, then be consistent, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. Or here's the thing: if you've changed your mind, that's fine too. If you don't like the law, that's fine. I can hear you out on that. What I cannot hear you out on is I'm going to play partisan politics. That's what I can't hear you out on. I can't hear you out on that, right? This is not a constitutional crisis. A constitutional crisis happens when branches of government refuse to acknowledge lawful authority, right? For example, if Congress orders withdrawal and the president refuses, if courts rule something illegal and the executive ignores it, right? That's the actual constitutional crisis, right? A limited operation under established precedent is literally policy. It's policy. And I don't know many other ways I can say this, but this isn't about a constitutional collapse. This is about, as I've said 2 seconds ago, this is about partisan politics. hmm Because fear mobilizes voters, constitutional crisis, it sounds historic, like, oh my gosh, we're going to be in the history books. President Trump created a constitutional crisis. It energizes the base. I get it. It energizes the bases. It drives fundraising. It creates outrage cycles. I get it. And outrage is what? Profitable. You make a lot of money when people are pissed. So instead of saying, I disagree with the military strategy. No, 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 no. You're not gonna. They're never gonna say that. They're gonna say democracy is ending. Ah, everybody, duck. Trump's gonna take you. He's gonna snatch you out your home tomorrow. Now, why do they do that? For the reason why many of us do it, because nuance doesn't trend. No, no, no. Nobody likes nuance. Nobody likes the nook and crannies. Everyone wants the surface stuff. They want the salacious, radical, screaming at the top of your lungs, acting like rabid, crazy people. They like that stuff, right? But when leaders exaggerate constitutional language for partisan gain, they misinform the very people who trust them, and that's what pisses me off. That's what literally. If you want to irk me, try to misinform me, right? Try to misinform me. Mhm. And it's irresponsible as all get up. It's just absolutely ridiculous, right? That you have people like Jasmine Crockett and Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, et cetera, going on X or wherever in Blue Sky and just saying things that they know is false. And Republicans do it too. I mean, I'm gonna tell you, y'all do it too. Saying things that they know is false. You know, I don't like the vice president of the United States calling the Supreme Court lawless. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't want my vice president saying that. So that is a critique I had of JD Vance when the ruling came down on tariffs. No, I don't like the the him calling the Supreme Court lawless, right? I can understand his sentiment, but yeah, time and place, right? Anyway, so let's say something else adults should be able to understand. Military deployment is not a game, right? So let's be clear. I'm not making light of Operation Epic Fury. I'm not saying, oh, this is going to be this beautiful, wonderful, sexy thing. And, it's going to be cinematic and it's going to be great direction of photography and it's a Marvel movie and all this stuff. No, 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 no. There is a big risk. This is a big risk. It's a big sacrifice, right? There's always the possibility of casualties. And so far we have at least three American casualties, right? So no one's downplaying the risks or the concern or the seriousness of what we're doing. It's real, right? But when someone volunteers to serve, and this is listen, you know, you signed up to serve, this is the risk you take. You know, it's like a football player takes a risk every Sunday when he gets on that field, you take a risk. This could be the end of your life, your career, your ability to walk, your ability to talk. This you take a big risk when you go into certain professions, right? And but again, I'm not making light of that. It's just the reality of the situation. So that doesn't mean we deploy people recklessly and just send people into things just to do it, right? It means we debate responsibly and not hysterically, right? You and I, right? We get the privilege to sit here in our comforts, right? Because they're doing the actual hard work, right? Mhm. And so, yeah, you can disagree with this the strategy and President Trump and what he might have said during the campaign or whatever. Although I remember him saying my favorite quote, or one of my favorite quotes, he's gonna bomb the S out of them. So that's what he said, right? So, and now let's tie this into scripture. I did this in a short video that I did on Saturday, because the war we see with our eyes is not only happening, is not only battle happening. In Daniel 10, the Bible records a vivid vision where an angel sent by God came to answer Daniel's prayer, but was delayed by the prince of the kingdom of Persia until Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help him. Now, listen to this. Persia is modern day Iran, right? It was called Persia up until year of our Lord 1935, right? And in Daniel 10, that prince opposing God's messenger has been interpreted as a demonic power or spiritual force associated with that region's regime, right? And scripture tells us for every angel of God, there is opposition. There is a spiritual adversary, right? Our struggle is not just flesh and blood, but powers and principalities in unseen places, right? Right now, Iranian people, the very citizens under a brutal regime, are crying out for freedom. We've seen it, we've heard it, we understand it, right? and they've been in bondage for decades, right? The government has literally unalived its own citizens for protesting, right? Unaliving innocent people for daring to demand freedom is crazy to me, right? This isn't theory. This is real. This is real human pain, right? And it's not just and I also sidebar. What irritates me is when people go, "This isn't America first." Actually, it is. It is. You realize all Americans are not here within the borders of the United States, the lower 48, Alaska, and Hawaii, right? We have military bases abroad, right? We have people on the other side of the world who represent our country. So this whole notion that we're just doing this for reason X is also a politically immature approach. Stop it. Stop it. Americans are not only here in the United States of America, we're all over the world, right? And so, yeah, you have to protect those Americans abroad as well, those who are serving in our military abroad as well, right? Okay, cool. Jesus. So this is real human pain all around. And when nations temporarily step in, the people rejoice. You know, we literally see Iranians all over the United States in the streets celebrating, right? All over the world, in fact, right? So just like the folks rejoiced in Venezuela when we got Maduro in check, and just like Nigerians rejoiced when the U.S. stepped in to protect Christians who were under attack by radical Islamic extremists, right? So shut up about your politics, because this is not about your partisan politics, right? This is about real people. You have literal liberals with the same yellow signs. Every time one of these things happen that they don't like, it's the same yellow sign that people are holding up in these protests. Anti whatever Trump did this week, anti whatever Trump said this week, anti whatever action Trump. It's always anti-Trump on a yellow sign with black letters. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. So again, not about politics, right? It's about real life, real people, right? This is real suffering. This is real hope for folks, right? And yes, scripture tells us there is spiritual warfare behind the scenes. It literally is. But it always points back to God's sovereignty, right? God's justice, God's heart for the oppressed, right? So stop playing in my face, you know? And again, this is not going to be some smooth transition into the next phase of American life, you know. And for peace through strength, sometimes you got to kick a little butt. And it's okay to kick a little butt. It is perfectly okay to kick a little butt. But anyway, so this isn't about defending a personality or a political party or a populist movement. That's not what this is about. It's not what this is about, right? It's about defending intellectual honesty. Mhm. War is a declared, sustained national conflict. A military operation is a strategic, limited use of force under executive authority. And so, if you want to argue policy, argue policy, right? Right. If you want to debate escalation, we can debate escalation, but stop weaponizing the Constitution because your party isn't in control. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Stop confusing disagreement with dictatorship. Yeah, it's not the same. Stop calling everything you dislike a crisis. We're all adults here. And what one thing we know as adults is most of the things we want, we are not going to get. That's it. That's just how life works. We all have big dreams and big things that we would like to we even have some stupid ideas that we would like to come into fruition. Right. But you know the chances of that coming into fruit is very slim, right? Right. And if it did, it would probably scare you, right? So anyway, because when a constitutional crisis actually happens, which, hopefully no time soon, no one will actually believe you. It's like crying racism every 4 seconds. If everything is racist, when the real racism shows up, nobody bats an eye because we're so desensitized, right? So when the real stuff happens, you're like, yeah, whatever, right? And if we're going to be a serious nation, like a serious nation, We need serious language. We need real debate, not this surface level, black and white, foo la la, blah, 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 right? Serious citizens, right? We need serious people to have these conversations with. We're in a world where human beings cry out for freedom, and God hears every prayer, right? Just like he heard Daniel's. And when the truth comes through, no earthly prince, no political spin, and no viral outrage can stop it. So I have literally gone over everything. I don't know what else to say to you. And it's not about trying to convince you to like somebody or not like somebody. It's just trying to get you on the path to being logically consistent, right? And understanding that your feelings are one thing, the Constitution is another. Your emotional state is one thing, the law is another. That's it, right? So you've got from me the difference between war and military operations, right? I broke down Article 1 versus Article 2. We went over that, right? Okay, cool, cool, cool. If you need a little bit more, hey, I gave you something to work with, right? You can do a little work yourself, right? Right. So I don't want to hear, oh, you didn't give, because generally we don't listen to for the information. We listen for things that we want to hear, and if we don't hear it, we go for that instead of listening to the greater point, right? So yeah, if you need more in Article 1 and Article 2, go look it up. I'm not a college professor. It's not my job to be that prepared for you, right? I've given you the tools. Now go use them, right? We went over the authorization for use of military force. We've gone over that, right? So we went over that several times, several resolutions, several presidents, right? Stop crying, right? We went over war powers resolution. We went over nuance in that, right? Because of course, like I said when we started, nuance is not sexy. It's not fun. It can get a little monotonous and get a little repetitive, but it's important, right? And we went over the 60-day myth. We clarified that. We talked about Korea, Vietnam. We talked about Iraq. We talked about Afghanistan in context, right? Right. We gave context to how they were able to declare war, not declare war for more than 60 days, declare war. And we went over all of that. So if you missed it, scroll back up, right? We talked about Obama's Syria precedent. We talked about several other presidents. We talked about the gray zone of modern warfare, the partisan politics angle. We talked about Daniel 10 spiritual layering it. We gave it a little spiritual in the layering of this, and then that's it. It was clean. It was concise. It was to the point. It was informative, and it wasn't just a rant. It was literally a mini masterclass. So I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear anything. Right. Because I'm not sitting up here defending Donald Trump. I've disagreed on some of the decisions, and you're supposed to. You're supposed to disagree or question things or not be 100% on board, or you may have done it a little differently, but that's called being an individual, right? That's what you do when you're an individual, right? But um defending precision in language and constitutional literacy, it's not fun work. It's not fun work. Because we get on here, and there's both sides. We get on here, we just want to argue feelings, right? You want to argue emotions, and that's fine. But find a higher ground. It's time to start finding some higher ground in all of this. And so I know I've talked your heads off at nauseum. Ah, I have talked your heads off ad nauseum. I've given you a lot of information in 45 minutes, and I thank you for all who stuck through it. Bookmark this video, this live stream, or whatever, and just go back to it and reference it if you need to. It's a lot of information, and the beauty about having these $2,000 devices, aka phones, is that we have access to not only current information, but lots of historical data that we probably ordinarily wouldn't have had, say in the 90s and the 80s, right? So flex your privilege. That's all I got. Flex your privilege, ladies and gentlemen. You have the privilege to be informed. You do not have the privilege to sit here and act like a baboon and then want respect on the other side of that. All right, cool. Appreciate you. Um, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you'd like to support the channel, you can go on over to AJsRANTroom.com. That's AJsRANTroom.com. I'm trying to get to AmFest this year, but the capacity in which I want to get to AmFest is as a vendor and a debater. I want to debate and I want to be a vendor and all of that stuff. So I want to be able to sell my merch for the first time ever, live and in color to the people, look people in the face, have debates, bring the deans and the Harry Sissons down there, and let's talk about it. So if you would like to support me getting there, you can scan this beautiful QR code, or you can go to givesendgo.com/AJ's Rant Room. That's givesendgo.com/AJ's Rant Room. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, or in this case, a tea, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/AJ's Rant Room, or you can scan this wonderful QR code. We also take offerings in the virtual collection plate. You can scan that QR code, and if you don't see this beautiful logo, then that ain't me. So and then be sure to support me across the other social media platforms. That's X, that's Instagram, that's YouTube, and that is TikTok. Those are the four main ones, and I might add Facebook on there, now that I was able to change my name. So we may add Facebook in there. I'll think about it when I get off of here. But I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for watching today. Make sure you hit that like button on YouTube, and I will catch you all mañana. Tantere, tantere. Peace.